Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, whatever part of the world you're currently listening to our podcast. My name is Almina, the concept author of Face Economics, the utilization of the social media platform in economic development worldwide. Thank you for joining me today on a March 1st. Wow, it's already March. So, anyway, I thought I'd give you guys a quick heads up on what took place yesterday regarding a community of supporters for the Lira family. Basically, the event took place online, commemorating the birthday of Mr. Gonzalo Lira. So those YouTubers, bloggers, independent journalists, and supporters of Mr. Gonzalo Lira, who had perished in Ukraine while in captivity, and his family um, were invited to be a participant to celebrate the life of Mr. Gonzalo Lira virtually yesterday. Um, as you all know, Mr. Lira had attempted to de-escalate the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. He advocated for freedom of speech, the preservation of democracy, and overall, you know, encouraged, the end to the war conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So me myself, when I found out about his case, I don't know Mr. Lear, personally, but when I found out about his case, I started, listening to his video blog on his YouTube channel, and just try to follow as much as I can regarding his case online. It wasn't the easiest case to follow because majority of the Western news outlets didn't really give him a lot of coverage. But I managed to just keep up with what's going on via some of the bloggers and independent journalists, as well as YouTubers, sharing his overall predicament on their platform. So yesterday, some of his friends and people that have supported Mr. Gonzalo Lira came together to celebrate his birthday virtually on Rappler, I believe is the name of it, or Rumble. I'm sorry, on Rumble. And so I managed to get access to the event, and there were some people that had requested for me to make a podcast of the event just because they didn't have access to Rumble. So what I'm gonna do is I'll share, a short, portion of the celebration. It was quite lengthy. It was about 2.5 hours long, celebration, and people were just basically talking about how they met Gonzalo either in person or virtually, and some of the people that were basically advocating for his release. So fortunately, he had perished while in captivity in Ukraine. And his father had confirmed that his ashes is now been delivered to him um, in Chile. I believe they're based in Santiago, Chile, somewhere. So his father did confirm that he now has access and have received the ashes of his son Gonzalo, who was cremated in Ukraine after perishing while in captivity. So with that said, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and share my screen with you, and I'll let some of the speaker speak, and have you all listen to their message, and what sentiments and whatever else they felt pertinent to the celebration and memorial service, basically, to commemorate Mr. Gonzalo Lira. Okay, let me share my screen here real quick. Okay. Right.
So. Oh yeah, on that I remember the one thing I remember is he said, well, I can't tell you where I am exactly, but I could show you a picture of the building across the road that got hit by a missile, and then you showed me, and it was like literally it was the staircase going down. You took a picture through the window, and like there was the building next door like being completely like there was a massive hole in it. I was like, yeah, that's be careful, yeah, I remember him sharing that picture with me, and I was like, ooh, yeah, you were lucky there.
Yes, yeah. Gosh, I mean, it's been 2 years now. I mean, who would have ever thought that this was going to last this long, and who would want it? But
yeah, well, look, I mean, yeah, I was going to say, well, what happened was that, because of course, the Russians could have won in like 2014 because they had the massive Ukrainian troops in a cauldron of the Bolsovo, and then basically it was like Merkel and was it Hollande? Yeah, it was Hollande. Merkel and Hollande basically panicked and went and said, oh look, we will have the Minsk agreements, blah blah blah, which of course was never actually a way to actually solve it. I mean, it was just a way of buying Ukraine time to rebuild, and they did, and that's why it's taken such a long time. If the Russians had said no to the French and Germans, it could have been over, right, all the way back then. But unfortunately, Putin trusted them, and then they just rebuilt the Ukrainian military, and so that's why it's taken so long. Because from I can't remember how many were at the Bolsovo. It's like I can't remember. I want to say something like 50,000, but someone probably have fact check me on that because I can't remember. I remember because back then I was reading a lot of Moon of Alabama.
Yeah. So let's. I can interrupt for a second. I see we have a third guest here. Who's used appropriately the name Gonzalo. So, Gonzalo, would you like to unmute your mic and say something? Welcome to the commemoration day. You want to join us? Just unmute your mic, please. Strange. Gonzalo, if you'd like to unmute your mic, just say something. Would appreciate your insight. Strange. So, Gonzalo, well, knowing that you're not Gonzalo, but knowing that if you'd like to say something, please go ahead and just unmute your mic, say something. I mean, we're amongst friends here. Nothing to worry about. Or good evening, sir. Welcome, and I'm very, very grateful that you joined us. You have your mic still muted, sir. If you'd like to unmute your mic. So I wish I could do it for you. There should be somewhere. There you go. You're unmuted.
Okay. Are you Chris? Your name is Chris?
Yes, sir.
You claim that you were a close friend of my son.
Sir, I was not his moderator. I won't say I was a close friend, but I did know Gonzalo.
How many times did you meet him?
On the Duran a few times, so as a moderator, and on our live streams, which we had for the moderators with Alex and Alexander, I would say maybe twice, 3 times maximum.
Well, I thank you for the program you're doing, but you know, there has been many individuals coming out on the internet claiming that they were very close friends with my son and lying left and right. I mean, they don't even, you know, they never knew it. And I'm trying to speak up the truth of what happened to my son. My son was assassinated by Zelensky with the help of that senile, decrepit Biden, who has brought shame to my beloved USA. I lived many years in the States, and that's why Gonzalo was born while I was doing my postgraduate studies in the USA. I lived so many years that I'm retired from the US in the USA. And he was assassinated, and Biden didn't defend a US citizen of his right of free speech. This has been dreadful for me. Gonzalo was my first and only son. I have a daughter. And finally, the urn arrived in Santiago. I don't want Gonzalo to be buried in the States. I want Gonzalo to be buried in Chile, where all of his ancestry are buried in this country. And that's about it. We're going to have a mass next Friday the 8th. He finished his high school in Santiago, Chile. His high school is called St. George, and we will have mass at the St. George Chapel. And that's all I can say so far. I'm awaiting for the information that I have asked the State Department. Freedom of Information Act is an act by which, if I want to find out all the communications that transpired while my son was in prison between the State Department and the Embassy of the USA in Kiev, and also all the information of the State Department with the government of that bloody, sinister Zelensky. And I am trying to have the death of my son not to be in vain. They have to be responsible, those evils, Biden and Zelensky, and Victoria Nuland, who is a woman totally out of whack. She's an idiot. She is very dangerous. And she is leading the government of the USA because Biden is a decrepit fool. And they're trying to initiate the Third World War. They are bluffing in this poker game with Putin. Putin is not bluffing. They are bluffing. I don't know if you're aware of that idiot British admiral. That he's stupid. He said yesterday that if Russia continues the war with Ukraine, NATO is going to get in and they're going to beat Russia to kingdom hell practically. Well, he's an idiot. He doesn't know anything about military affairs, and he wears the uniform of an admiral. And this is taken from Colonel Douglas MacGregor, who really knows military affairs. As you can see, Chris, I'm with deep sorrow, but very angry. I'm a very angry person. And I wish the worst for those evils, Zelensky, Biden, and Nuland. They are bringing shame to the USA. The USA voted against a ceasefire in the Gaza Stretch. And Israel is doing exactly what Hitler did to them during the Second World War, the Holocaust. They are doing the same to the Palestinians. And the USA is involved behind all this. And it's about time that the world knows that the USA is a country which is the exporter of armaments in the world. And that is precisely what President Eisenhower forewarned the public in the USA in his last speech, his farewell speech, before handing the presidency to President Kennedy. He said, I'm afraid the military industry has grown tremendously. Let us not become a country that exports armaments. Well, that's exactly what they're doing now. And the USA is losing the empire. The American empire is gone. Welcome the Chinese empire now. Because anywhere you go in the world, anything you buy, it's Chinese. It's not USA. It's not union made. And this is what this idiot that we have now as a president is doing to my beloved USA. One call, and I'll finish now, Chris. One phone call from that bastard Biden would have freed my son. My son only did his right of freedom of speech. And he called the shot in Ukraine. Zelensky's an evil man. He's a dictator. What are we talking about freedom? Why are we sending so much taxpayers' money to Ukraine? How much is Zelensky putting in his pocket? Is he getting kickbacks in the White House? Why don't we start looking what's going on behind the curtain? I don't trust Biden, Chris.
We would love to, sir. We would all love to know the truth. And I think we all know the truth. And that is why we are outraged at what is happening. And I think that your son, as he correctly said months ago, that he loves he loved being in Ukraine. He spoke about the country as it was his home. And he despised what was being done to this country. And when you heard, I really listened to him for a very long time before I became his moderator. And we could hear, the honesty. And Gonzalo Jr., may I put it this way? In my eyes, he is a martyr. He is a hero. He was murdered, as you correctly say. He was taken from us, and we know who is responsible for it. And I pray that your dream comes true, that one day those who are responsible for his murder are taken to the International Court of Justice.
Gonzalo, when he finally obtained bail after being in prison for more than 2 months, because they apprehended him on May the 1st of last year, 2023, he had the right to pay for bail immediately, the same day that they apprehended him, according to the law in that country of savages. They didn't grant the bail up until 2 months later, July the 6th. Finally, he paid $11,000 and he obtained partial freedom. He knew that once that bail would erupt, he would be back to prison. And he sent 3 videos on the internet. I don't know if you've seen them, saying, I'm 5 kilometers like 3 miles from the border with Ukraine, and I intend to cross to Ukraine. If I am unsuccessful, I will die. He knew beforehand. But Chris, let me tell you, he accused those savages of being tortured. He accused those savages that they extorted him $70,000 from his PayPal, or with a toothpick, he would lose his left eye. That was the first extortion, Chris. Once he failed to cross to Hungary, those savages in prison extorted him for the second time. The PayPal account is balance zero. It had $143,000 when he was detained. So there was another extortion of $73,000 for the balance of the PayPal. Furthermore, they stole $9,000 in cash in his apartment. They stole his computer. They have not handed it back. They stole his motorcycle, a BMW. I have myself a motorcycle. I understand about motorcycles. A BMW 1200 GS. It's a very expensive motorcycle. They stole it because they have not handed it back. That is the state of the affairs when my poor son was killed. And what they did, in mid-October, he sent a note dated January 4th, when he arrived finally into a hospital. He had been feeling very bad. Mid-October, he wrote that in the note. He had double pneumonia, pneumothorax, which is caused, among other things, by heavy blows on your sternum, middle of your chest. Usually people get that from an accident, an automobile accident. Mm-hmm. He had a very serious case of edema. Anyway, he arrived in the hospital, sent that note, and on January 9th, 5 days later, his attorney told me he's in better shape. Chris, he would lose his conscience when he arrived in the hospital if he did any minor physical movement, including, Chris, if he would speak for more than, say, 2-3 minutes. He wrote it in that note. I don't know if you've seen it. He would lose his conscience, Chris. That was a critical, healthy arrival. 5 days later, on January 9th, Victor Serkovny, his court-appointed attorney, by the way, which is another issue, Chris, but didn't speak any English, by the way, visited my son on January 9th and told me that he was in better shape than when he arrived 5 days before, on the 4th. But, Chris, 2 days later, on the 11th, my son dies. And let me give you more insight. Between 11 and midnight of the 11th of January, he died in that hospital. At that hour, hospitals around the world are not busy at all. No visitors, very, silent. The SBU went to the hospital and disconnected him. They actually finished murdering him between 11 and 12 in that hospital. It gives you a lot to think about, Chris.
Sir, I can only... It outrages me to hear this. And I think it outrages everyone that is listening to you right now. Rightfully so. I don't know, it is hard to put into words how to to tell you, how much we're outraged. And I know, as I said, I was not, this his best friend or anything like that. But you listen to Gonzalo for a certain amount of time, and you get to know the man, and it outrages you. So,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but he's back. That's right. He just dropped out.
yes.
I would like to ask Mr. Lira a question. I was the one that sent him part of the book that Gonzalo was working on. It's unfortunate you haven't had his computer and other effects back, because I don't. A few of us would like to see his work published, even if it's incomplete, because he had all sorts of very interesting things to say. And also, I would like.
Excuse me. I was interrupted 2 minutes ago.
Oh, sorry.
I went off the air, and I missed the first part of what you were saying, Chris, about a book that Gonzalo was writing.
That was the other gentleman who was actually one of his Patreon members, who knew Gonzalo actually better than I did, and he was talking about the book that Gonzalo was reading. So
Writing.
That he was writing. Pardon me, that he was writing. So he would like to ask you questions.
Is that the gentleman that is above me on the screen?
No, that is another gentleman who is in the chat in the back room with us.
I'd like to see the one that knew my son on the screen.
I don't have a camera attached to this computer.
You're British.
Yes, I am British. Yes. English.
I'm a fan of England.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
I lived in England. I studied, while I was in grammar school in England.
Yes. You sent me an email saying that you lived not far from the Natural History Museum.
Okay, now I know who am I speaking. Yes. I'm a fan of England, as I said, and you were involved in that book that Gonzalo was writing.
Yes, he sent me part of it to look over, and we got to talk about it a bit, but he never sent me the rest of it, so I have no idea. I would like it if it was possible to get the rest of it, from the Ukrainian authorities, so it could be published posthumously.
I don't think we'll ever be able to get anything from the Ukrainian authorities, because, believe me, they're savages. They're different to Occidental people. They're totally different. In all respect, they think different. They act different. It's been very difficult for me to communicate with the attorney, that Victor Serkovny. He doesn't speak any English. So we have to communicate through WhatsApp and translate those, messages. And they're introvert people. They don't elaborate. I asked him, what were his words with you? Because he says that he was with Gonzalo 2 days before he died. And I asked him, what did he speak with you? And he only told me that they spoke about his health, and Gonzalo spoke about his 2 children, and nothing more than that, But he told me that he smiled while he was, and as I said before, he found Gonzalo in better health than when he arrived in the hospital. But then again, 2 days later, he dies, Apparently, on the 9th, he was recovering his, critical health when he arrived. But if you're recovering yourself, how can you die 2 days later? I'm not an MD, obviously, but it's difficult to understand those things. Yeah, you sent me those preliminary words that my son, he was a reflection of many things. There is a lot of philosophy in what he was writing. After all, he had a bachelor in philosophy at Dartmouth. But, well, that's the way things have happened. And as I told Chris, it's horrible. Believe me, I think one of the saddest things that us as human beings have to suffer is to lose a son, a daughter. It's something you never expect. The normal is that we go before they go. But having this is, I'll be very frank with you, I'm a man that cries. And I think it makes me a better man because I am suffering very much. And the guilty parties of this have not come to judgment. And I feel that they should have a judgment on those bastards, in particular the ones that tortured my son. And he was tortured, believe me, for full 8 months and 11 days. My poor son was tortured by those demons, evil people. And the USA, the government, not the people in the USA, and good human beings. In general, the Americans are good citizens, are good people. But the government of the USA, the present government, is a bunch of evil people. And I'm sure getting kickbacks from that Zelensky, that dictator. He has killed many political opponents. Gonzalo placed a video years ago, putting 12 names, as I recall. I think there were 12 with first and last names of those poor Ukrainian individuals that were in the opposition. He made them disappear. And when he put that video, Gonzalo said, if you don't hear me for the next 24 hours or something, add me to the list. Gonzalo, I don't know if he was suicidal or a very brave man. I think the latter. He was brave. But he sacrificed his beautiful relationship with 2 children. Veronica is a lovely little girl of 10 years old, and Ramon, 8. And Ramon, just like his daddy and his grandpa, likes motorcycles, because there is a video that I have, and it's very difficult for me to see it nowadays. When my son is taking Ramon in his fantastic B&B motorcycle and telling Ramon that my dad used to do this to me when I was your age. And yes, I had a Vespa in Los Angeles, and I would take Gonzalo when he was 6, 8 years old in the Vespa, and he loved that. He very much enjoyed it. That's all I can tell you in the personal life or relationship with Gonzalo.
I can tell you he was a brave man. That's who he was. He was unafraid to be himself. And I appreciate him very much for that. I have a question. Is the service that you're having for Gonzalo, will that be streamed on the internet as well? Because we can't be there, but I would like to be able to at least, have some closure.
Yes, you may. I mean, I'm acceptable. At this stage, all I want is to have as many people as possible to know the life of Gonzalo and how he was murdered. I mean, to me, the biggest surprise that I have gotten in all this is the USA government. I was in the USA, living in the USA for many, many years. I arrived in 1963, shortly after they assassinated President Kennedy. I lived Vietnam. I fought for free speech movement with Mario Savio, who was our leader in UC Berkeley. And I lived those years in the USA defending free speech and having a USA that was a country that would help more than destroy. Although Vietnam, I was totally against, obviously. I think Vietnam was a major mistake that Lyndon Johnson made, but that's another subject. But I am dismayed when there was a vote in the United Nations about a week ago or so, asking for a ceasefire in Gaza, you know. And most countries voted for ceasing fire, except 9 countries that didn't want to cease fire, and that included the USA. That's the moment that I made in my mind that the man leading the USA is an evil man. He's not a normal. That's not the USA. That is not what our founding fathers wanted for that great nation. And this man, as I said before many times, is bringing a shame to the USA. And that, to me, was one of the major surprises in my life. And the fact, obviously, that they killed my son. As I said before, go ahead.
I was going to say, unfortunately, the corruption has been going on for a long time. A lot of people trace it back to the assassination of JFK, and that everything has been gradually getting worse and worse over there since then. There are many reasons, as you said, about Ike's farewell speech about the military-industrial complex. But if I remember right, his granddaughter, I think, actually mentioned that the speech was actually going to mention the military-industrial congressional complex, but Ike took out the congressional part out because he still needed to get some votes through for various things. So it has been going on for quite some time. In fact, there was there's a Douglas MacArthur quote even before Ike's speech. Let me just see if I can find it. Let me just find it. Here we are. This is from 1951. Douglas MacArthur said, "It is part of the general pattern of misguided policy that our country is now geared to an arms economy, which was bred in an artificially induced psychosis of war hysteria and nurtured upon an incessant propaganda of fear." So yes, it has been a long, slow decline, unfortunately, and yes, we are all very. Even though I'm English, I look over, and to us in England, Americans are our cousins. Literally, that's how we think of them. Usually crazy cousins, the sort of will always come in and make a mess of things.
If I may interrupt you for a bit, like Archie Bunker used to say, those savages across the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, because I'm much older than you guys, but Archie Bunker was a very good, comedy program on television in the USA. And he referred to the British that the British would always say, "Good Lord, those savages across the ocean," referring to the States.
Yes, sir. I do remember Archie Bunker and his son-in-law Meathead.
Yes, he was a very funny character. And you're so right, my British friend, that the relationship between the USA and the fatherland, England, it has always been very, very close indeed. But I think one of the how can I put it? I think one of the mistakes that us Occidental countries made during the Second World War, I'm referring now, is when they had that big meeting with Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt, and they decided to split Europe. You take half of Berlin, and we give the other half to the Russians. And Russia became the Soviet Union. And that crazy soldier called Patton had a big fight with Eisenhower because he felt, I've got the whole army in Europe. Let's go and kill those Russians now. Well, I'm not espousing for killing Russians, but when they divided Europe and they created the Soviet Union, the Western countries were forced to create NATO. And I think NATO has been the worst thing that we have ever had, politically speaking, because we learned that the Russians are evil people. All they want, is to have wars, and they're preparing to have the Third World War with us, which is going to be nuclear. If you spare your patience, let me tell you something brief, if I may. The first time I'm at UCLA, and it's a Tuesday morning, and I felt the need to go to the bathroom, to urinate. So here I am. The bathroom is practically empty. And I'm, doing my thing, when all of a sudden I hear, the sound of a nuclear attack. I mean, we're in the middle of the, Cold War. So I stampede, putting my zipper up as soon as I could, open the door, go out into the corridor, and everybody is walking, everybody peaceful. And I'm the only who's so excited coming out of the bathroom. And I say, hey, what about this sound? No. Every Tuesday morning in LA, we sound the siren, so that people are used to the sound of it. That's how close we were to going into a Third World War. Those were bad years, dangerous years. And the reason was that we created that thing that we had to create NATO. So the Soviet Union responded with the Pact of Warsaw. And at the end, we started, a very long Cold War and spending billions and billions in armaments instead of spending it in people, in health, in education. And today, with a government such as the USA has, we are in danger. We are in danger. If we come to a bigger war in Ukraine, may God help the population of this world, because it's going to be a nuclear interchange and it's going to kill us all.
Agreed, sir. And on that note, I keep, on the Duran, where I'm also a moderator, I keep saying, that I grew up in the United States also, so it's a country that I am very near and dear to. I have family there still. and I fret for them because it's not the United States that I grew up in. As you heard, I grew up with Archie Bunker also, and in the good old days, you know, Three's Company and the other one with Sanford and Sons. You know, those the real days. It was a free. It was a good United States, and when I look at it now, I fear for what is going to happen or what could happen. And I think that NATO should have been dissolved. I mean, why did it listen to him when he said it 4 years ago or 5 years ago, that it should be dissolved? No, everyone, you know, lashed out at him, but he was right. The man was right. It should not exist anymore. And where could the world be if we would all just put our noses back where they belong in our own countries, investing our taxpayer dollars or euros or whatever into the countries that we lead, that we gave the governments power to lead? The United States could be so much further. We wouldn't have this fight. We wouldn't have the poverty and the trillions of dollars of debt that the country has. And not only the United States, we're all in this boat. I mean, I'm not only criticizing the United States, I'm criticizing the European Union also. But primarily the United States, because they are the ones that had the global hegemony since 1991. And,
you know, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I wonder what's the end game, and you correctly said it. It is, there are demonic forces out there that are trying to kill as many people as possible. And I think this goes back far further into history than just since Eisenhower or Kennedy. I have been following history, you know, this red line, as I call it, from the very first day. And I will admit, I'm a very faithful believer in the Bible, in Christ, and therefore I see where this comes from. I know the plan. All it takes is a couple good men to stand up against it and raise hell about it. And one of those good men was your son.
He was a brave man, and yes, you're right. Gonzalo was, you know, he was visionary. Let me give you another insight to Gonzalo. While we were living in Los Angeles, because we moved to New York later, when we were living in Los Angeles, he was, we were in New York at that time because he was 10 years old. We were living in New York. I enlisted in Columbia University. So we were in New York. And we were called, his mother and I, from the school. And this was at the beginning of the following year when he was 10, you know. And the teacher told us that he had been giving a task, you know, to all the students in that classroom when they came back from holiday, from summer holiday vacation. Tell us, what did you do during the summer? You know, give us, give us a paper. So Gonzalo wrote, you know, what he had done during the summer vacation. And the teacher thought it was fantastic, you know. I mean, the way he expressed the 10-year-old boy, you know, the way he was expressing, you know, all the things he did during vacation and all that, you know. And then Gonzalo, he was called by this teacher, and Gonzalo said, no, we stayed in town. We didn't go anywhere during my summer vacation. Dad couldn't because of his work. And the teacher, so surprised, and she says, I mean, you mean to say you created all this? Well, yes, because you asked us, you know, to write something. I wasn't about to just write nothing, you know, put a zero. So I had to create something, you know. And the teacher told us, you know, that she felt that he was going to be a writer someday, you know. going back to California. He was about 7, 8. And they tested him in the school. He was at the Pinecrest School. It was a private school. He was at the Pinecrest. And they made some assessment, of the little boys and girls at that age. His IQ was 162. Gonzalo had a very high IQ. And you can notice many things. Like, for instance, at 10 years old, again, while we were living in New York, he'd be reading the Greek mythology at 10 years old. And he would be discussing it. Furthermore, he must have been 12. I don't want to exaggerate. But one day he was confronted us, his mother, and he confronted me. And he says, I'm a bit mad at both of you. Why? Well, you invite people, your friends, for dinner, and I hear what you speak about and what, why don't you invite me also for dinner with you? Because I'd like to also give my opinion. He was about 12. Honestly, Chris, I can remember those things from Gonzalo. We knew he was a very high level, fellow. And he was very special. I was thinking this morning, he must have had a tremendous library in the apartment he lived. Of course, we will never see those books again. My fellow from England, that was helping him out in writing something. All of those things will disappear, will never be returned to us, I guarantee you. Speaking of the USA, we are 3 brothers. We were born in Chile. We had good education, very good indeed. I even had my schooling years in England. My dad was in the embassy, the Chilean embassy in Hamilton Place, and we lived in 9 Clarendon Place, W2, very close to the High Park. And to me, the education is something fantastic. We all went to college into the USA. My 2 older brothers led the way, and the third. They're still alive, retired. They're living in Los Angeles. I have 2 brothers in the USA. I have 4 nephews in the USA. Yes. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people in my family that live in the USA. And presently, my daughter, she's the only one that I have now. My daughter, younger than Gonzalo, she was 6 years younger. My daughter lives in the USA because my son-in-law, due to his business, to his job, he works for a major Chilean company. And that you can see how the USA has come down. That Chilean company bought an American company in the USA. And Giorgio, my son-in-law, was sent to the USA to lead the way there. So they'll be living in the States for 3 years. They're on their 2nd year now. So this and next year, and then they'll come back to Chile. So I have a lot in the USA, and I love that country. But as I say, you are doing something, helping Gonzalo to have people know his life, where was he coming from, how was he educated, what did he think of things. I mean, as much as possible to make understand that it's terrible that they have killed my son. He had so much more to give. They interrupted him midway in his life. And in the personal, area, you left two little children. They're so beautiful, believe me. They're real beautiful two children without a father. And they left an old man without a son. And to me, it's the worst thing you can do in your life. Gonzalo didn't deserve to die. He was a good man. And free speech was all he did. Analyze the news of the day and give out his opinion. But the worst, Chris, and I'll finish now, is that what he said and constantly saying is happening right now. All he said was true, and it's happening. He said they'll never win a war to Russia. Ukraine will be smashed, and the economic sanctions will backfire. You know that Russia is growing, during the last years. They've been growing. Oh no, what the USA has done. They're so stupid. And I'll finish now. I'm an economist, by the way, by trade. Doing what they did to Russia, telling them that they cannot trade in US dollars. You know what they had created, those bastards? That the dollar is not going to be the currency where everybody goes into. Yep. They're going to look for something else. And the Russians are trying to find that currency backed up by gold. Look at the gold reserves of Russia from 2014 onward. They've been amassing gold.
Yes. They literally drove Russia into China's hands also.
Yes.
They literally brought both of those powers together. And because this is a short-sightedness which flabbergasts my intellect, that one of the, if not the most powerful country back then, actually made BRICS happen.
Yeah.
I can't understand it, but that's a topic for another day, and I would love to have you back on, sir.
Anything.
Because it has been, first of all, I understand your pain, and I did not expect you to come, which I thank God for it. Thank you very, very much for sharing your stories with us, because we got a little bit more insight into our friend. As I said, I did not know him all that well, but all of his videos brought you tend to empathize with someone the more you listen to them, and this is what this is all about. This is honoring Gonzalo's memory. This is commemorating this day for him, and I do tend to make sure that this day remains the Gonzalo Lira Day for as long as I'm around. And we will get answers one day. I pray for it. I'm sure that it will happen. It might take long, but I do pray for it. And what I do also pray for is that you do get to see your grandchildren. And if anyone out there who is listening to this or re-watching this live stream has any form of connections or power that something be done for Gonzalo's children and for the truth to come out, do something. Use your power as a sovereign of your country, especially you Americans out there. Write to your congressman, write to your whoever, give them help. Let them know that Gonzalo will not be forgotten. Continue. Remember Gonzalo Lira.
I thank you, Chris. I thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure. I'll be very frank. At first, I was a bit newcomer, to come into your show, your invitation. And I'm glad that I did. As you can see, I speak a lot. but being the first interview, what I wanted was to make very clear that you know more about Gonzalo than many people around in the internet that they say, as I said, you know, at the very beginning. And they really don't know Gonzalo. Well, I wanted you to have insight into the family side of Gonzalo, how he was. One of the cousins in the USA that lives in Arkansas, his name is Michael Lira. He's the son of my oldest brother, Patricio. And he lives in Arkansas with his wife and children. And he spoke with the governor of Arkansas and the senator of Arkansas in the capital, asking for Gonzalo all along. He was very close with Gonzalo. He would visit us while we lived in the States. He would be visiting every summer vacation. He'd go to our house and spend even 2-3 weeks with us, you know, because as I said, he was very close with his cousin Gonzalo. And we have all suffered, you know, my brothers are suffering, my nephews. They were very close with Gonzalo. There was the human side of him. As you recall, Gonzalo lived many years in the USA. Anyway, again, my very thank you, Chris. I don't know if my British friend is still there or...
Yes. Yes. My name is Jeremy, by the way.
Yeah, I know, Jeremy. You know, I'm 81 and I still remember things from way back. And even in the present also, you know.
You remind me so much of him. You really do.
Well, many people say that. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Sorry, and it's actually been a pleasure to meet you. And I just wish it was under much better circumstances.
I know, Jeremiah. You listen, people like you are the ones that the world needs. People that care. People that really understand what's going on in this world, for crying out loud. I mean, we are in the wrong road. This road may take us to terrible consequences. I cannot understand. There are 37,000 dead in Gaza.
I know.
No, and you have to, and each family has many children in the Arab world. You know, they usually have 4 or 5 children. Like half of those 37,000 are children.
I know, but I have hope. I have hope. I know it may seem, there's the old phrase, it's darkest before the dawn. And I have hope. Because I speak to many people and there are more people than you might imagine who are waking up to what's going on. And I have faith in them. I'm not a religious man, but I do have faith in people, and I think we're going to have a very difficult period, but I do truly believe that we will get through this and we will get to a better place.
I hope God hears you, my dear Jeremiah, and we see the light after the tunnel, because I don't want my grandchildren. I have 2 in Ukraine, and I have 2 in the USA right now. My oldest is 19, and my granddaughter is 17, and she's thriving, you know. She is so happy living in the USA because she obtained her driver's license, you know. And at 17, when you start driving, you know, it's a major, you know, in your life. Anyway, I have 4 grandchildren. God bless me with 2 boys and 2 girls. The oldest is 19, and the youngest is Ramon, and he's 8. May God bless them and make this a better world for them. And I give you my many thanks. I'm so glad, Jeremiah, you came on. And as a good Chilean, I send you un abrazo. I hug you guys. Take good care. And I do hope it's not the first and last time. With you, Jeremiah, we've been interchanging messages. Let us continue.
I look forward to it.
Gonzalo Sr.,
Chris,
thank you very much again for joining us. I cannot express my appreciation for you joining us and sharing all of these memories with us. Thank you again.
likewise, Chris.
My
It's been nice.
condolences to your family and my blessings, and may the Lord take the pain away from you as soon as possible.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
I'm gonna need a minute, okay? So
Okay, well, folks, that was really, wow, it was wonderful as well as it was heart-wrenching because I am actually a very emotional person. I try and keep it, I can try and keep it down as much as possible, but yes, as I said, you know, this is something.
I couldn't help leaving you. Chris, I'm like you. And Chris, I told you a while ago, men do cry.
Yes, they do. We do, sir. And pardon my co-host here, she's hungry.
I'm not going to continue barging in your life. Please.
Okay.
Have a nice day. And again, it's been a very nice pleasure meeting you and hearing once again Jeremiah. So now I'll leave the air.
It has been my honor and my pleasure, sir. Thank you again.
my pleasure too.
Okay. Thanks a million. And this time I will leave.
Okay. You can stay.
You have to understand it's 4:11 p.m. where I'm living, and like a good Latino, it's siesta time.
Siesta.
Oh.
Sí, señor. Yo comprende.
Hasta luego.
Okay, guys, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gracias. Oh wow. So that's, gosh, folks, that was truly a blessing. And you count your blessings.
Alex has missed all this.
Huh?
Alex has missed all this.
Alex has actually missed all of this, and I keep getting this this link. Wyatt is trying to get in here, and I'm trying to find the link where he can get in. I'm trying. This is what happens when you are pretty new to Rumble or to live streaming. Let me see if I can get him. Well, it's going on for 2 hours now, so sheesh. I'd really like to get him in here, but I saw that Peter Frohlein was here. There I see on the live chat now that he's there, but I can't get him into the. Strangely enough, I can't get him into our stream anymore. Allow. Alex has also just asked to come in. Ah, there he is.
Yeah.
So Alex is in here. That worked. Fantastic. Alex, good evening to you. And just unmute your mic, turn on your camera, and enter the room. I mean, it worked for you. I don't know why it's not working for Wyatt, but yeah. So let me see if we can get him back in here. Alex, please just, yeah, I think we're having a little difficulty with the connection here because Gonzalo Sr. also had a little difficulty getting in here, but just click on your camera, turn on your mic, and welcome to the show. It is going to be it's not going to be all that much longer, but it's great to have you here. And Jeremy, this was absolutely fantastic. I have to say. So, okay, so there's a pic here. Hi, Alex.
Let me restart something. Something keeps not working.
Okay, no problem. Yes,
Schultz, you idiot.
Schultz, you idiot. Trudeau, you idiot. You know what? It's, honestly, Alex got the same link as you here, so I don't know what's happening, but there.
You guys see me? Hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
Wonderful. So you just missed Gonzalo Sr. actually.
I saw the beginning parts of it, and then I was just doing some more work, and then I caught the tail end of it. I was trying to get on while he was saying goodbye, but I couldn't.
It's strange because
yeah.
I put into 9 guests that we get. I could add 9 guests simultaneously, and it seems that four is really the max. Peter signed in, and Wyatt has been trying to get in, but it
do you want me to drop out?
No. I mean, it's just. I'm sure
I had to do a restart to get camera working.
Anyway. Yeah. So, hello there, my friend.
How's doing? Hey, Valias, how are you?
Yeah, lots of guys in here. I'm surprised. I've never seen so many people on my life. But that's not true. On locals, I've had quite a few. But yeah. Hey, 49 of you watching, smash that like. Yeah. So it's been a kind of a roller coaster right now because Gonzalo Sr. talking about Junior, and wow, it's been heart wrenching, honestly. But yeah, Alex, please, share your thoughts, share your time with Gonzalo. I mean, this is his day.
What can I say? I don't know.
Start at the beginning.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Start at the beginning. How you met him. How that all happened.
Actually, I think I documented this in a video that I did when he passed away. He was watching our live streams as CRP, as Coach Red Pill, and he sent us a couple of super chats, and then we connected with him via email, and we decided to do a show, I think it was a recorded show, the first show that we did. It wasn't a live stream, to talk about geopolitics. This is way before I don't want to say way before, but significantly before the SMO started. And at that time, we were just talking just general geopolitics and stuff. We did a show with him because he wanted to transition over to geopolitics from CRP to geopolitics, and we did a couple of more shows, and then a live stream, and then he started his channel. He started to wind down the CRP channel, and then he started his other channel on geopolitics. And that was pretty much how it all got started. That's simple.
Did you have contact with Gonzalo, off and on and off, when in between streams, stuff like that?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
I was gonna say, when I spoke to him about it, he loved being on the Duran because always interesting questions, always smart questions.
Yeah.
Like, unlike a lot of other people who ask kind of rather basic, silly questions, I think especially Alexander always had interesting questions for him. There's always
yeah.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just remember him saying how much he enjoyed it. Being on the
Duran's a tough. I think we're a tough show to be on because questions are tough. Not so much from Alexander, but from our community. Our community asks tough questions, good questions, very good questions, very, very tough questions. And Gonzalo, he liked it. He thrived in that type of environment. And yeah, we would talk. We would talk before the show a lot, after the show. Him and Alexander got along really well. We would talk about their kids. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. I mean, you know, what can you say? I mean, yeah.
We're going to miss him, that's for sure. That's for sure. Do you know if there's anything now, because we pretty much know. I mean, I know that you are the son of a diplomat, or I don't know if your dad is still in diplomacy or not. But do you know any way, Alex, that we as a community can create some kind of pressure for his wife and his kids to be able to see the grandparents, if they, get information, any kind of information? What would we do as I mean, apart from right in the embassy, which
if there was one thing that he kept very much to himself, it was his family situation. He kept that very, very guarded. Yeah. Mm. What can you do to do what exactly? To have the family leave Ukraine, to travel abroad? Do they want to? I mean, I don't know. I mean, these are questions that I don't think anyone can really answer. And I don't think there's really anything that can be done until someone can figure out if there needs something to be done. I don't know. It's I haven't heard any requests from his family members to say that they want to leave Ukraine, nor does anyone really know anything about his family other than his father. I mean, what we know about his family is very much from Senior. I mean, Gonzalo is very quiet about that. Rightly so. He never mixed in his family with his shows, which is something at the Duran that we don't, a type of policy that we have. Not so much, but we don't really mix our personal stuff with the show that we do, to be quite honest. I mean, we don't even get into social issues that much. So
he loves his kids a lot. I know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He would talk about them a lot.
That's why he was in Ukraine. That's why he stayed there. Yeah, absolutely. That's why he remained in Ukraine, and yeah, but he wouldn't talk about his family. So I don't know, Chris, if something needs to be done or is being asked to be done. I don't know. I think that's a question that I can't answer.
Well, I would love. I mean, we would all love for the truth to come out. I mean, I know that we've heard from Senior that he was cremated, so we know that there's never going to be an autopsy. I mean, that was deliberately done. But FOIA in the United States is pretty much it's a moot. I think the question is but just like the tractor, the tractor drivers or the farmers came out, maybe there needs to be some kind of public awareness, and that's pretty much why I decided to create this thing, this special day. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do it, once a year, not every 4 years, because it's his birthday every 4 years. But we just keep it aware, keep the situation aware that these people, Gonzalo is not the only one, by God, we know that, but we're connected to him, in a certain way. But people like Julian Assange also, that we have to keep them in the public light, so things like this do not happen again. That we, create some form of pressure, maybe enough people will watch it and say, okay, we have to do something. Well, that's what I'm hoping for, at least.
I think that, as I said to Gonzalo's father, it's darkest before the dawn. I think things are going to change. We've seen the farmer protests and this sort of thing. And a lot of people are beginning to wake up and understand the sorts of things that are actually going on in the world. And I think Gonzalo contributed to that. Assange has done too. Even David Kelly, and you probably don't even know who David Kelly is. You know who he is? David Kelly was he worked for the British government before the Iraq War. He actually spoke out about the fact that the information was false that we were being fed, and he was found. Well, they say he committed suicide, but those of us who know that he didn't. He was not that kind of man. So, and people have forgotten about him, or at least most people have. Some of us that have know those kind of people, yeah, we remember him, and I think the same thing has to be. I think we have to remember all these people, including Gonzalo, obviously, and I think we have to be brave in the face of, what, as you described it, evil. And we have to have the faith that things will change. I do. I'm one of those people, like I said before, I'm not a religious person. I do have faith that people will wake up and will understand what's going on and things will change. I don't know how things will change. I hope things will change in a peaceful way, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. I'm just ready myself for what may come, and then we'll see what happens.
Definitely. I mean, we do have to prepare in multiple ways. We're talking about spiritually, talking about physically, mentally, informational wise. I mean, that's why we have the Duran, which is pretty much one of the few, and I really tip my hat off to the guys, because I know you both work your asses off real bad, but they're not enough. They're small. It was once my dream to actually have all of these independent people in the news medias connect together and interchange information, exchange information, because the more people grow together, and together we're strong, as the saying goes. And we can't all follow everything. The world is just too big. The information flow is just too much. But if people were to connect on a I don't know what kind of level, but be able to interchange information. For example, I wrote just the other day in Locals, whatever happened to the news of yesterday, we've lost out of sight, because so much is happening right now. And we're looking at the Epstein affair, for example. We're looking at COVID. Whatever happened to that? And we know that there's a latent possibility that they want to do something again. But we have to, keep bringing this, regurgitating it, if you want, so we don't miss this out of sight, we don't get lost. But yeah, this is where we are, first of all.
I was going to say, I think that Duran is one of those places where things are happening. It's one of the interesting things I find on Alexander's Wednesday streams is that there's kind of a spirit that to the chat and how we interact, and I think, I mean, I'm trying to say how to say this without being dismissive. It's the Duran is now more than Alex and Alexander. There really is a community. So we appreciate all your work, and especially the clown worlds. They're always entertaining. The thing is that there is a community, and I can tell there's a community rather than just a bunch of people, because there is a spirit. Like I said, on the the Wednesday live streams, that spirit is manifest in the chat. And there's a few places I've seen this as well. This is one of the things that gives me hope. I keep seeing the same spirit manifest. It's not just single individuals. It is a cohesive group coming together, but it's not a mob, if you see what I mean. It's an actual community who are building upon each other, you know. And I think that is one of the things that gives me great hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, don't despair. You know, things happen in waves. Sometimes things are good, sometimes things are bad. We're in one of those points in time where things are bad, and they'll probably get a lot worse before they get better. But that's how things go. And you know, there's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be people in power that are not the best of us. But you know, this is how things work. You know.
One second, let me mute this. Sorry for its interruption. This is something keeps popping up. Okay, so on that note, I know this is not the place for it and it's not the time, but JJ just said something. Jeremy just said something very, very important, very, very knowledgeable, and it was about the Duran has become so much more. I think you know what I'm talking about, Alex. That it's become more than just a community. It's growing. It's moving something. It's really building something much larger than just the geopolitics. And we would like it to become something. You know, it's grown beyond a certain point. As a friend of ours, Kurt, would say. Maybe we should maybe this week on locals we could get together and say something about, you know, announce something.
Yeah,
I want to do it here on Rumble because it's just not.
We could do it on locals. Yeah. We'll find the time.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think time has come. Maybe that we, you know, announce something. Would be cool. Okay, my friends.
Sure.
This has been a wonderful. I mean, it's been going. It's 2.5 hours now. I did not expect it to go.
You guys are doing a long stream.
It has been a long stream, but it has been a very, very. It's been a great stream, and I thank everyone who's joined us. And I can see that now 60 persons online and joined us. Total 60. Fantastic. I'd like to thank you very much for coming in the last minute, but it's been great. I mean, always like, you know, talking to you guys.
I think Defense Politics agent was also trying to come on, but
she was trying to, and I don't know why. I really don't know why, because I left the chat and the back room for 9 persons to join. They just will not take it. 4 has been the max, but I'm sure as I grow in knowledge about Rumble, because we can't do this on locals, sadly. I can't invite, you know, guests on locals. Yeah, no. That's really unless it's my site, which I don't use anymore. I can't get in there, by the way. But anyway, I'll just have to continue doing it over locals, but probably privatize it or something like that and connect it. In any case, yeah, this has been a great 2.5 hours. I'd like to thank everyone, especially Gonzalo Sr. for joining us. JJ, so Jeremy for joining us. Brett, who fell asleep.
Anytime.
This has been fantastic, and I'd like to say, great. Yeah, a room is full. Wow, I see it, and I don't know why, because it's set as 9 people. But yeah, you all have a great evening. Thanks again. I really cannot express my appreciation for you all joining. And let's not forget Gonzalo. Let's give him help. Let's give him as much pressure as we can sooner or later the truth will come out. Truth always comes to the light. And with that, I will be wrapping this up. Everyone, take care. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
So, okay, folks, it's not the full 2.5 hour conversation that took place among Gonzalo Lira's supporters, advocates, family member, friends, and, the digital and virtual influencer community that had participated on the commemoration of Mr. Gonzalo Lira's birthday on February the 29th. He would have been 56 years old, as everybody feel, the weight and overall grief that his elderly fathers, must be having to deal with. You know, by getting access to a lot of his material and content via his social media platform. So, in a way, his legacy and memory was preserved on his platform, but I imagine how difficult that must have been for his family members to see, um, their son and brother and uncles, cousins, nephew to suffer that kind of fate in a foreign land, um, and in a foreign jail while in captivity. So, everybody had mentioned that they would like to preserve Mr. Gonzalo Lira's memory and share his, story with the world community, and preserve, his quest for, the preservation of freedom of speech, you know, um, and overall process of democracy. So predominantly the people that were involved, especially the influencers, are, subject matter experts in geopolitics. There were some individuals that had participated in this commemoration event that come from various international and foreign policy background, that were basically, in agreement with escalating the situation between Russia and Ukraine and ending the war. So all of us would have liked, for the war to end back then in 2022, and preserve lives and help bring, the bring the region back to normalcy. So, with that said, folks, thank you for listening to our podcast and video blog. I will share this video blog on our Face Economics TV YouTube channel, as well as upload the podcast on our Spotify platform, Face Economics Podcast on Spotify. Feel free to share it with your friends and family to reflect on the life of an Hispanic American who wanted to, contribute to the de-escalation of the war in Ukraine. And, he actually was one of the, prominent advocates of ending the war and saving lives in Ukraine. So it's very unfortunate that he suffered the fate that he had suffered, wanting to save as many Ukrainian lives as possible and escalate the war between Ukraine and Russia. With that said, folks, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.